Hey folks, just making a real quick video. I don't have enough time to get another game going right at this minute. I'm still actually working, just on break, and have a lot to do this afternoon, but I am eager to try this again. But a lot of comments have come in, and so there have been some things that I want to correct real quick. First of all, somebody help me, and thank you so much, because I don't think I ever would have figured it out. What is a cliff? A cliff is, see how this has these little squiggly lines along that edge? That is a cliff. So that's a cliff. This is not a cliff. Does that make sense? And then here you can see another cliff, because see those little squiggly lines again? So cliff, no cliff, cliff. And just for the record, that would be another cliff over there and then another cliff there. That's really hard to see, but I at least know what one is now, and I'm grateful. That did not impact our game, but that was something important. Somebody revealed to me that you cannot close combat somebody who is unrevealed. And I thought that was poppycock. But then I looked in the rule book, and sure enough, it said they have to be revealed. So that was a big error on my part. You can't just blindly go close combat something. You have to attack it regular first to reveal it, and then you can only close combat it later. So that changes things greatly, and I'm curious, is it the same way in Tarawa and I just got it wrong there? Or is that something new? And here's where I got it from. During the U.S. action phase, you may attempt to disrupt and destroy in 3 actions. You can do an attack, which we know what that is. Barrage a revealed, right? So you can only barrage revealed units. Conduct close combat, moving them into a revealed Japanese hex. So, so that was a big error on my part. Not that it helped us any, folks. I mean, I still lost. So it wasn't like I was exploiting anything, but that's a very important one. Somebody mentioned that when I had this situation here, I did a ranged attack from here, and I cut it in half because he's in a brush. And I think if I understood him correctly, you only look at the location that the ranged unit is in. So there is no brush here, so his ranged attack would have been full strength. Even though this one is in brush, the brush cuts the ranged attack in half, but it would be, if he was in brush like that, and then he did a ranged attack, then it would be cut in half. I think I understood it. Please correct me if I got that wrong, but that was an important thing because I did that incorrectly. Somebody else pointed out that, hey, since these are all intense fire zones, you know, land all your units like that. So basically you got 4 units. And then the idea was this action, this one single action, affects all 4 units if they all do the same thing. So I'm going to have like all 4 of them attack a certain direction. That actually might work. Now the other thing is that these units here are going to disrupt a few of them, right? So let's say these 2 took damage. Well, they would be disrupted, but these 2 would not be disrupted. So even though I have a stack of 4, these 2 could still do something. Now, the drawback, though, is at the end of your turn, you need to have a stack of 2, or otherwise you're going to lose units. And I thought that this was going to be a brilliant strategy, because what I would do is I would just have a big stack of doom here, and then I would close combat something. Well, with the situation where the close combat is unrevealed, and I can't close combat somebody that's unrevealed, it's no longer as powerful. But bear that in mind. You don't have to worry about concentrated units when you already have intense fire, because all concentrated units do is make these turn into intense fire. So here it would be a bigger deal, because a concentrated unit would make these 2 become intense, but these 2 already are. So here's a perfect spot. You can go over 7 pips here, and there's no harm done to you at all. So those are things that you can do, and it was a very good point made. I should always write down this stuff before I start. I think there was one other thing that I need to be mindful of in the future. Oh, close combat. Yes. So I had it mostly right. The one thing about close combat that I wasn't getting exactly right is I said that if the last card that the Japanese played was their color, he would be undisrupted. That is true only if the Japanese initiated the attack during their attack phase. And it's rule 8.66. And I read the rule and I understood it, but then I understood it improperly. Right here, Japanese survivors. Japanese units and death markers that survive a close combat remain revealed. That part's good. A Japanese unit that becomes disrupted by close combat during the Japanese action phase becomes undisrupted at the end of that phase if in a position hex of a color shown on the current Japanese fire card. So this here I think means that they're always going to be undisrupted, to be quite honest, because the Japanese fire card is what's going to trigger them to do close combat on their turn. And by the way, the thing that triggers them to do close combat would be the A action, which, here we go. That A action would cause an assault, which would lead to close combat. So what it's saying is, normally at the end of close combat, both sides get disrupted and get a disruption marker. This is saying that if they survived a close combat during their action phase, they become undisrupted by the end of that phase if it's in a position of a color shown on the current card. Well, let me tell you something. This purple is what's going to cause them to do the attack in the first place, so they're always going to match the color. I can't even fathom a scenario where they won't. And so what I'm trying to say is, at the end of the Japanese action phase, they will always be undisrupted, even if they initiated close combat. Now, that's where I went astray. If you remember, I thought it was the last card that was used in the combat. And so when I initiated close combat with the Japanese, I would check, you know, the last card. And if it was matching their color, then I said, oh, they don't get disrupted, even though we just attacked them. That's not true. So I did that part wrong, and we will definitely get that correct in the next game. I'm very pleased, by the way, that that is no longer true. I thought that was an extremely annoying feature of the close combat. Anyways, we can definitely get that corrected. Somebody else also pointed out that I had a lot of situations where, so for example, this is an infantry leader, and then this is the unit that it's with. If this unit gets attacked and disrupted, the infantry leader is not disrupted, so I could, you know, there is no bond here that I have to keep. I could just move it to another unit if I wanted. Very good point. I didn't do that. I don't think it mattered. We lost miserably. Last thing that was pointed out was when I draw a drift, they said that the only token that can drift is if it matches the symbol. And I forgot to look that up in the rules because I thought I had it right, but maybe I didn't. And I think I've only ever had it right once when somebody tried to correct me. So I'm not very confident in my odds there. But let's see. So if the color matches the fire dot, this is how it takes a hit. And then if the card has a drift result, one U.S. unit with the landing card's target symbol drifts. There it is. So I was doing that wrong as well. Remember, we were picking the unit that would drift. You only drift if you match the symbol. Now that's what's interesting is what this is saying then is if this was the landing card, this is the symbol that would get hit. This is the symbol that would drift. So the drifting one is not necessarily going to be the same as the guy getting hit. And whoever drifts, by the way, doesn't get hit in the next zone. That part was correct. But that's a small correction that will change how we do this. And maybe we can't min-max it as much as I was doing. And we'll get that corrected as well. Still quite happy with this. My initial assessment is just that because every Japanese unit is just randomly placed on the board, some of these can be really powerful, and they can be right here. whereas in Tarawa, they were always inland, the powerful ones. So, so you could really hit a doozy right away, or you could hit a pathetically easy guy. Somebody else also mentioned that I got the eliminated unit wrong, and I think they might be right. So when you defeat a unit, this is a non-elite, and this one's an elite. So let's talk about these. If I defeat a non-elite unit in normal attack, it goes to the eliminated unit pool. If I defeat an elite unit in a normal attack, and it has communication, it goes right immediately into the reserves. So it can come back immediately, potentially. Okay, if I defeat a non-elite unit in close combat, it is out of the game. It doesn't even go to the eliminated units pool. If I defeat an elite unit in close combat, it goes to the eliminated unit box, and it can never go into the reserve box. And that's only if it has communication. So otherwise, this could also be eliminated from the game if there's no communication. So the cutting off communication is key to preventing them from showing up again in future rounds. Now, what if this guy didn't have communication and we defeat him in a regular attack? I actually probably should look that up closer, but I think what happens in that situation is they don't go into reserves, that's for sure. Here we go. When a U.S. attack defeats an elite Japanese unit in the invasion scenarios, the unit withdraws instead of being eliminated. If it can trace communication, place it in the reserve box. Place defeated units not eligible to withdraw in the eliminated box. So either way, they stay in the game. A unit is not eligible to withdraw if not elite, or not in Japanese communication. Withdrawal does not apply to the Bloody Nose Ridge. So we're talking about elite units in normal attacks. Now, the next thing you have to look at is when you go into close combat, that is different. And so ending close combat by elimination, it ends a Japanese unit conducting close in a non-position. Place Japanese units eliminated in close combat in the eliminated box. All non-elite units eliminated in close combat are removed from play. Okay, so the rules are different based on close combat versus regular attack. In a regular attack, this guy goes to the eliminated box. No matter what, he goes to the eliminated box, which is this thing right here. This one will go to the eliminated box if communication's cut off. If he has communication, he goes to the reserve box. In close combat, this one's eliminated from the game, and this one goes to the eliminated unit box. There is no opportunity for them to go to reserve, period. So communication doesn't matter in close combat. Communication does matter in regular combat. So this can be really, I mean, it can be confusing. And so if you're new to this game, just understand that those are the things, and I wish there was a table or a chart that made that more clear. But get out an index card and write it down. It'll help. The elite unit versus the regular unit has different rules based on how you attack it. So since this one can only be eliminated through close combat, that's what that little close combat symbol means, he will never end up in the eliminated units box. This one's destined to be out of the game. This guy, on the other hand, could be anywhere. And he's quite powerful, this one here, actually. Now, someone also pointed out that the depth marker, this depth marker has a close combat requirement on it, and that somebody could attack it through normal means and just choose to take optional attrition, and that does destroy depth markers. And if that's not striking a bell because you're new to the game, optional attrition is what can be done if you don't meet the weapons requirement, which is the case here, because that's a CC weapon requirement. We're attacking it a normal way, so we're going to be in this no box. But if we have double the strength they do, and it's a revealed depth marker, we can do with this thing called optional attrition. So the way that would work is I could just take my unit that's attacking and say, I'm going to take a hit on that unit. So you would lose a step. And in doing so, you can destroy the depth marker. Now, the other marker would remain, right? And then it would get, it would get a disruption token, but I would destroy the depth marker. And so that is a way to avoid close combat, which I think you would agree with me can be quite pesky. Because, so I was talking with somebody on Facebook after this was over. He had watched this video, and I was telling him that I'm frustrated because close combat, I can't mitigate it. I can't, find ways to mitigate the luck that just happens with them. And I think this was the thing that a YouTuber suggested, and I think is a good mitigation, is when I get these depth markers that have CC, it may behoove me to just do optional attrition, because doing close combat could mean I take many hits, right? I can take a whole bunch of hits, and then he may not even die, right? So at least this way I can guarantee, okay, I'm going to take one hit, but just one hit, and then I get rid of this, and now this other guy is available for me to steamroll. Obviously, if the top one says CC, I can't avoid it. I have to close combat the top ones. But the bottom one, I can. Now, the other comment made is try to disrupt them and get around them so you cut off their communication. That is, it's a good suggestion. Sometimes it's easier said than done. And then just remember that it's different based on whether you're doing close combat or not. I mean, close combat, you don't have to worry about communication at all. It's only when you're attacking them normal that it becomes an issue. So anyways, that's it for a quick update on rules. As you can see, I haven't even cleaned up the game yet to start a new one, and I'm hoping to do that this evening, late this evening. But anyways, it's definitely been on my mind. That's a mark of a good game, is you're thinking about it, even when you're not playing it. And so that's what I like about these. These are nice puzzles. They're good puzzles, and this is a puzzle that changes every time you play it, which is also nice. Still trying to decide if I like this more than, Omaha Beach or Tarawa. Not quite there yet. I think what's interesting is they each have their little thing that they do. Anyways, enough rambling. We'll see you soon, and stay awesome. Thanks for joining me.